Welcome to the Black Doctors Talk podcast. I am Dr. Christopher Holmes, host for this episode and member of the Black Doctoral Network. Today, I'm joined by Dr. Chanise Reese-Queen, who is the Director for Continuing Medical Education at the University of Maryland School of Medicine. Welcome, Dr. Reese-Queen.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Holmes.
I'm excited about having you here. You have a position that not a lot of people are aware of, so I know you're going to share with us and drop some wisdom to inform us on what you actually do. So
Yes.
before we start, tell us, where does it all begin?
Wow, where does it all begin? So here, I graduated from high school and went straight to college. And I did 2 years. And then I transferred to a different college. And that there was where I decided that I wanted to be a physician. And I went to school and I worked two jobs. But then I decided, you know what? I'm going to get married. I met someone, we decided we're going to get married. So I really didn't have time for college, you know? And
Right.
so that didn't work out. So just needless to say, and I just actually started working full time, and I was really making a lot of money. I was working as a meeting professional, and I traveled a lot, did a lot of events, and one day I hit a wall because a lot of the employers were requiring a degree, and that I did not have. Now, I was a certified meeting professional, but they wanted a degree. And so after 15 years of being out of school,
Wow.
I went back and I worked and I went to school and I did it straight. I got my bachelor's, I got my master's, I got my doctorate. And even after that, I went and got a graduate certificate program in learning design and technology.
Oh, man.
And I'm passionate about lifelong learning and about education. And so that's really where it all began. And during that time, I was working in various organizations, a lot of associations, nonprofits, a couple of medical institutions. And I had been in CME, continuing medical education, for a while. And I'll get out and I'll go back in. I'll get out, I'll go back in. It was just like a love-hate relationship. And so one day, I was like, I really like it. It's about education and it's really what I'm passionate about. And so I started back into it and I ended up here at the University of Maryland School of Medicine as their director for continuing medical education. So that's where it all began. So it's been a great, awesome journey. And I'm looking forward to the next 75, 85 years.
Oh, yeah. And we're going to talk about that. So remember you said that. I'm going to bring that back up. So, here's the beauty of that story is that you were able to bridge your love for science, wanting to be a doctor, and your love for learning now as a CME.
Yes, absolutely. That was it. I get a lot of pleasure out of working with the faculty and developing educational activities where the healthcare provider learns. And then when they're learning, then healthcare outcomes are improving because they're taking that education back, those skill sets, and using it in their practice. And so while they're using it in their practice, then they are, you see the outcomes from that. Patients are, better well-informed, better, quality of life for the patients because of the information that's given to the healthcare provider that's given to the patient.
So let me ask you this question. How do you, or what strategies are you using to bring value to the training and the learning that you're bringing to the table for these medical professionals?
So I work with a lot of different faculty here, and a lot of things since COVID, we have been looking at how do we engage the audience the healthcare provider,
Right.
so that they're able to get that information and take it back. Because, in some industries, getting your education, whatever, because you have to get relicensed, right?
Right.
So you get that to get relicensed, not that you're really paying attention to it.
Right.
I just need it because I got to get relicensed. But here we make it and we tailor it to the skill sets and the topics that the field that they're in, many of the physicians that are in. One of the things that we have been doing, and I think this is across the board, is including in all of our educational activities some sort of DIE or DIA, diversity, inclusion, and access, looking at our educational activities through a DEI lens.
Right.
And because, we know that, African Americans have, that stigma when it comes to, working with healthcare providers, not wanting to get vaccinated because of all the things that have happened in the past.
Right.
And so it's still here. And so, we try to include a curriculum where it's looking through a DEI lens to in our educational activities. And so for our healthcare team, we enjoy engaging them in that process. We meet with them. They bring everything to the table. Not only that, we bring medical students, we bring patients. What's going on? What can we do better? What kind of program can we put on to help everyone?
Right.
Not, it's more of an interprofessional team versus, doctor, nurse. We're looking at a more interprofessional sort of setting.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think that makes it real time and relevant for the professionals.
Yes, absolutely.
So let me ask you this. You mentioned COVID. So I know COVID has changed a lot of things.
Yeah.
But how has technology in general impacted the work that you do?
So, online, it's online learning now. And as I mentioned previously, prior to COVID, I had decided to get a graduate certificate, take a graduate certificate program in learning, design, and technology, because I said, hey, I think we need more stuff online. Now, I manage our learning management system, and we didn't have any online stuff. So I'm going to take this course. And my supervisor was like, great, not knowing COVID was going to
happen. Right.
So I did it. And a lot of our activities were online. We're using Zoom. I was researching platforms for our faculty to use so that they can still feel like they're in that conference in the person setting. But yet, it's doing on Zoom. And so it's been interesting. It's been good. And I think we've seen a lot more participation from various, learners. Our attendance has increased across the board. So, but yeah, that's how we use the technology. It's great. The only thing I will say is that we do have a simulation lab. And so it's kind of hard to do that via Zoom.
Yeah, super hard.
Because you want that hands-on.
Yeah.
And so, that's the only thing that, we have not been able to do, but there are some, companies out there that are making some headway into that to ensure that, if something like this was to happen again, we're able to do that via, online.
Now, when we think about continuing education in the medical field, what are some of those things that we need to consider to ensure that the work is appropriate for the setting, and we're giving those professionals what they actually, and you kind of mentioned this a little bit before, but when I think about doctors, like let's say my pediatrician, when I left him was probably in his 70s. And if he were having to get professional learning right now, computers probably wouldn't be very comfortable for him.
Right.
So how do you navigate through some of those challenges that you may experience?
Wow, that's a good question. And one of the things that we do look at, with planning an educational activity is the learner. Who's the learner for this? Because that will determine. And not only that with the setting and who's the learner, but also how do we engage the learner? Now, prior to COVID, everything was in person. And so that was, everything was in person. So we had to look at how we pivot to online learning. I think for our mature faculty members, we are excuse me again.
Yeah, you're fine.
We are we work with them. We do work with them. I think pretty much everyone is on board with technology. And it's interesting because without using our learning management system, we have to collect attendance. You have to record your attendance.
Right.
How do you, and in person, we have a sign-in sheet. But how do you do that online? And so with our learning management system, we're able to collect attendance. Attendees are able to record their attendance via text or app. Oh, wow. And so we do get some people that say, I don't use text, I don't use app. And so, you know what? It's more, for me, it's being service oriented.
Yeah.
And it's saying, hey, okay, that's fine. Give me your name and I'll record your attendance for you. I know you that you were there. But basically, pretty much everyone is online with, with technology now. And so we don't see that as a hindrance. What we see is more people wanting to do online, and we don't have the resources or staff resources to do what we really want to do.
Yeah.
And so that's the part there. But I think when looking at how we engage our audience and how we set these meetings up, I think a lot of it is the learner, not only the learner, but you had mentioned settings.
Yeah.
And your settings vary. It could be a hospital setting, it could be a lab, it could be a conference center, it could be a resort. Location is I mean, really, that makes a big difference. And now, we're having to look at things a bit differently, with in-person meetings with COVID, not having registrations, being able to, continue to keep that social distance, while we're at the conference. So, or at that particular meeting in that location. So there's a lot to consider, and we're still working through it, as we move forward, into the end of this year and into next year.
So let's talk a little bit about DIE, and as you mentioned, DIA.
Yes.
So what is the difference between the two, if any?
So I really, I really don't think that there's a difference. I think it's just a preference, how people look at it. Basically, if you put it all together, if you be inclusive, no pun intended, inclusive, diversity, equity, and access, all of it is about being valued, feeling welcome, being able to have the same opportunities as everyone else. It's about having having the resources that you need, like everyone else. It's all the same, but it's just some people and some organizations have a preference of how they look at it. Yeah. And I think it's even when you look online and you type in DIA or DIE or IDA, you'll get everything. Yeah. So it's just the preference. And I think, people are going out there and looking into how can they implement it. And it's interesting because my professional society that I belong to, they call it the DIA, Diversity, Inclusion, and Access. Now, I was part of a work group, and it was called Diversity, Inclusion, Access, and Racism. So it just depends on, what what it is that they're going, trying to put out there. Yeah. What's the topic, the focus of it. So yeah. So it just is, to me, it's really all the same. It's just preference and what the organization prefers and what the focus is.
Yeah. When I think about it, I'm listening to you speak. And so it's almost as if which phrasing makes the company feel most comfortable. Yeah. Right. and how are we going to brand ourselves in this particular lane?
And that's absolutely true, because, even if you look at any university, they have a diversity committee,
Yeah.
or a person, and then it may be, inclusion and equity. You're right. Absolutely. It's how do we want to brand ourselves? Absolutely.
So let's go a little bit further. So you've been in this thing for 20 years.
Yes.
Doesn't look like it. Let me just say that.
You.
I'll say about 10 to 12, but we know black does not crack very
Absolutely.
easily.
That's
Thank
it.
God for the melanin. So what is one thing that you wish you would have known earlier on in your career?
Wow. So I know this sounds strange, may sound strange, but I look at it as I knew what I needed to know when I needed to know it.
Yeah.
And I am one that believes that all things really work together for your good, for my good. If we start thinking about, oh, wow, I missed this. Oh, I should have done that. I should have did this. I don't look at it like that. I look at it, we look at like, oh, it was a mistake. I look at it as a mistake.
Yeah.
And I look at it as a learning opportunity.
Yeah.
I'm right where I needed to be, where I'm right now. And that's how I see it. When I think about, my past life, it was great. Everything my in the past, it was great. When things looked like it should have went one way, then it went another way. And you was like, oh my goodness. But then when you look at it, you're like, oh, wow, I'm glad that happened. And I'm reminded of this song or something my grandmother used to say, honey, you're understood better in the by and by. So when it goes bye-bye, that's when you understand it.
I love, because when it goes bye-bye, the learning comes your way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yep.
So let's say this. So with that being said, you now have a level of wisdom that you can now pass down to somebody else. So what is something you would tell someone who wants to enter into the field of CME to ensure they're moving in the right direction and in the right track?
I would definitely say, a couple of things. Always seize the opportunity, seize the moment. What I've seen in a lot of the field here is that because it's a small niche and there's not a lot of people that do it, and a lot of times people fall into it. It's not, you don't wake up one morning and say, oh, I think I want to be a continuing medical education professional.
Right.
No, you don't do that. You fall into it. But learn everything that you can. Take every opportunity to learn about it. Network. That's one of my biggest things. Networking, joining your professional societies. We have I think maybe 10 professional societies.
Wow.
For this particular, profession. And so I'm involved in all of them. I get involved. I volunteer. I'm the vice president of one. And I get in there and volunteer. And so I would say volunteer, network, always look for ways to learn, and reading. I'm an avid reader. I love reading, and I read everything. I think I've read over 200 plus books, and I have a Kindle. So, I'm just kidding.
Lord.
But definitely read, and with reading, you're networking, being a part of your professional societies, volunteering, all of that works and helps. And sometimes you have to have a heart and a passion for this, because some people don't. So I don't want to do this. But one thing I can say, since I've been in the continuing medical education field, it's like a little nugget, but in it spurts out different careers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because in it, you can be, I do a LMS. I was a meeting planner, finance, sales, exhibits, marketing, all of that goes into it. Curriculum, designing a curriculum, what else? There's so many more things that comes that you can have with this, career as a continuing medical education professional. A lot comes out of it.
Yeah.
And so not to be focused just on one, but make sure that you're able to get around to all of what it offers.
Yeah.
And it offers different things for different folks, but take every opportunity to learn and grow in it.
So you said that it's a small community.
Mm-hmm.
I had never heard of it before. So this is news to me.
Yes.
This is something, I was a biochem major. This is something that I may have been interested in undergrad had I known it actually existed, considering I became a teacher after I graduated, right?
Yeah. It's so physicians need to be relicensed every 2 years. And so how do they do that? They get continuing medical education.
Yeah, that's you.
Yeah, and that's me. And there is a governing body that oversees it.
Mm.
And they give you the approval to stamp accreditation on different activities. And so every 4 or 6 years, we go up for reaccreditation.
Wow.
And we have to prepare our files, prepare a self-study. Now, I am a surveyor for that organization, so I go out and I look at other organizations, self-study, make sure that they have all the documentations and report back. So yeah, so it's a lot. It's policy, it's guidelines, it's knowing all of that. Not, the big thing now is commercial support. So I don't know if you've ever heard that, back in the day, these big pharmaceutical companies would give money to these places to do an event.
Yes.
And so all of that had to stop because, there was a lot of conflict of interest.
Yeah.
So now there are a lot of guidelines for that now. So, and that we have to follow. Wow. So so it's a lot to know, and it takes a good 3 to 5 years to really get in it and know it. And then you can decide if you want to stay in it or not.
But I think what you're saying is very important for people who aren't in this field to understand what you do is critical.
It is.
Like you just said with pharmaceutical companies, we want to make sure that our professionals aren't having any type of bias or invested interest personally, and ensuring that you get the proper care because they're getting funding or outside resources or perks from these pharmaceutical companies.
Absolutely. And you want to make sure that you want to make sure of that. And, I think the other thing too is that, when you go to see your physician, your primary care, you should be involved in your healthcare just like they are, even more so.
Yeah.
And so, there are courses and activities that we do where we teach them how to communicate. Yeah. to the patient, because you have all types of patients. You may have patients that may have not graduated from high school. How do you share your findings, treatment plans with them so that they understand?
Yeah. That's critically important. So let's keep going. I'm enjoying this, people. I'm enjoying this.
Thank you.
So we know that there's enough data out there that talks about the lack of diversity in the medical field. Mm-hmm. And with their community being so small, how often do you run into other people that look like you?
So, the organization that I am a member of, I am the co-chair for their DIA program, Diversity, Inclusion, and Access. And, with that particular organization, I would go to their annual meetings and I was like, well, there ain't a lot of us here. So, and they knew that. And so they put together this committee so that we can, embrace, I won't say embrace, but so that we can include more diversity in that particular organization. It's not a lot of people of color that are in continuing medical education. They may be an admin assistant or maybe a coordinator, but they don't stay. Because maybe, they're probably, focused on something else.
Right.
But it's really not a lot. And then I think, what I'm seeing with myself is that many of the organizations that I belong to, I'm just getting a lot of calls and emails, can you be a part of this? Can you be a part of that? Because they want that diversity.
Yeah.
They want that. And so everyone wants it. So I just think, there are some of us out there, and I'm making sure that, what I do, that I'm more inclusive of everyone. Everyone. And one of the organizations that I'm a vice president of, the president is Latino. So, and so it's a change for everyone.
Yeah.
And so we are trying to, again, include everyone, making policies, putting it on, this is our statement of diversity, inclusion, and equity, putting that on our website so that everyone will know it. We still have a long ways to go. We do. And, even a lot of that is when you look at the medical field, there's a really good book, and I'll just throw this out there, called Medical Apartheid. Awesome book. And it really shares the light, on physicians, back in the day. But also there are, what I find is that more African Americans go to see physicians that look like them.
Yeah.
And so we need more that look like us.
Yeah.
And again, we're doing that. We're pushing that. We're ensuring that, with all our activities, that we're looking at it through a DEI lens. But this is some work, and so it's going to take time.
Yeah, I agree. So I want to pivot just a little bit, and I want you to talk to us a little bit about the work that you do with I Am Remarkable, and then talk to us about your own work with Owning Your Awesomeness.
Yeah, so I Am Remarkable is a initiative that was started by Google, and it is based on having women and underrepresented groups acknowledge their accomplishments and achievements, because women, especially women, don't do that because of society, gender modesty norms. We're told to be quiet and sit back, don't be too ambitious, and no, that's not it. Be ambitious.
Mm-hmm.
I really recall from a TED Talk from Stacey Abrams, and she said, you got to be aggressive about your ambitions.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, you got that right, because I am ambitious, very. And but I Am Remarkable teaches women and underrepresented groups how to promote themselves.
Yeah.
How to promote themselves.
I'm going to give you this, and you can steal this, because when I hear you say this is the theme that I hear: giving voice to my victory.
Yes.
Giving voice to my victory.
Absolutely. Because we don't, you got to think, have you ever had a time, personally, to write down your accomplishments? Many of us don't write down our accomplishments. We don't reflect, what have I done? And we have to start doing that. And putting ourselves out there, showing up. Sometimes we don't show up, so that's our fault. And I give an example, if you're on a Zoom call and you are, it's a Zoom meeting or a conference, and you don't put your video on, nobody knows who you are, and you have a tendency to be overlooked, because the people that are on video are going to be talking to each other. You are invisible right now. So you have to show up. You have to be present. I Am Remarkable also talks about, the biases that we deal with in the workplace. Okay. And so it goes on. It's a really good program. And I am a facilitator for that. Now, I did create my own program or workshop called Owning Your Awesomeness. And in that, I talk a lot about how women don't acknowledge compliments, or they downplay it. So if somebody says, oh my goodness, your hair looks wonderful, we have a tendency to say, oh, this old thing, or your shoes look great. These old things, I got these on sale. Well, we didn't ask that. All you have to do is say thank you.
Yeah.
we downplay it. Just say thank you. It's okay to say thank you. And so I go a little bit into that with owning your awesomeness. And then I do have them talk about a little bit about minimizing language. Because we use minimizing language. I just think, or I might be wrong about this, but it's minimizing language.
Yeah.
Just say what you have to say.
I love it.
Do you think I'm right? No, you don't have to ask that. Just say, I suggest that we do this. And it may not be received by everyone, but that's okay. That's okay. And so I talk a little bit about that. And then we do an exercise where everyone has to write down their 3 accomplishments, and then they have to share them with the group. And then the group has to celebrate them, because women don't celebrate themselves. Whenever you do something great, celebrate. Yeah. If it's going to get a bowl of ice cream, celebrate. Celebrate. And then once they celebrate the person, then the person has to say thank you. They have to accept it. And so, we as women have to accept compliments. We have to accept praise, and we have to know our value.
I love that, because what it says to me is that you are already validating who you are and accepting that people also acknowledge you are also great. I don't need it, but I accept it.
Absolutely. And it's okay to be ambitious. It's okay to talk about your accomplishments. Well, this is what I did. It's okay to put it in an email. Well, I am the vice chair of this committee, and this is what I've done. It's okay to do that.
Wow.
Well, it is, because men do it all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
They have no problem with it. Women, I don't know if I want to put that down. I am the vice chair of this. This is what I do know. And I can tell you, I share it, because you never know. Somebody was like, well, you know what? I have a question to ask you about that particular, thing here. So, you put it out. I put it out there. My husband is a cosmetologist, and he's always marketing and selling everywhere he goes. He's looking at people's hair. Oh, look at that. You know what? My name is so-and-so. I can do that for you. But he's always marketing and selling. And I always tell women, you are your own marketing department.
Yeah, I love it.
You're your own marketing department. And so market yourself. Get your own webpage.
Get that LinkedIn.
Exactly. You know what? Your LinkedIn, because people look at that. Get your own webpage. Write down your accomplishments. Write your own letter of recommendation, because who knows you but you? And
here's the thing. You would be surprised how many people are looking for you.
Exactly.
But you never put yourself out there.
Exactly. That's it. That's it. You have to put yourself out there. You have to show up. You have to be, present. And so, and that's learning. And my former, my boss, who passed last year, she was such an advocate for women. Oh my, she encouraged me to do everything and take so many opportunities. And so I did. And I if they offer me the opportunity, I'm going to take it.
Yeah. Awesome. So I've got a few more questions.
Okay. Yep.
I want you to share with us your biggest challenge to date, and also your biggest accomplishment.
Wow. So, my biggest challenge, I don't know if you're looking for a circumstance, but I'm gonna tell you, one of my biggest challenge is me.
Yeah.
It's my releasing control and wanting to fix it. That's my challenge. Yeah. Because a lot of times, it's really the mindset. We see things, that's a challenge. That a lot of times it's not really a challenge. It's the mindset, the belief system, the bias that we may have. And so for me, I know when I want to control something or I want to fix something, it's because there's a fear of the unknown. And so I know with the unknown comes learning.
By and by.
It's a learning opportunity. And so I have just really learned to, be aware of when I'm in control and when I'm trying to fix something. And the other thing I would definitely say, one of my biggest challenges is the perfectionist, being a perfectionist. That's a big challenge for me. And looking at, everything has to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And then, that's when you get into the imposter syndrome and all of that. But I am learning that it doesn't have to be perfect and that I am enough.
Yeah.
And if I make a mistake, oh, well, it's a learning opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah.
My biggest accomplishment, definitely getting my doctorate. That there. Woo.
The work.
It was definitely that. And I think the other thing was, really being true to me.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing who I really am and where I'm really going. And that's a big accomplishment, because, a lot of times we don't, we're still trying to figure out where we're going, how we're getting there. And I think for me, it's just being my authentic self. And it's like, I know me, this is me. I don't have to be like you, and I don't have to be like that person. I can be me.
Yeah.
Everybody else is taken. So I have to do me.
Most
right?
definitely. Oh, I love that. Everybody else is taken. I love that.
So I have to be me. And I've learned that, I can never be less, but always be more of me.
Yeah.
And so though that's one of my biggest accomplishments is definitely being my authentic self. But next to that, finishing that, getting my doctorate, and that was a big, huge accomplishment for me. Definitely.
So where do you see yourself in the next 5 to 10 years?
Whew, it's so much. So really, I do see myself in the next 5 to 10 years, the dean and some university. I'll look in the School of Professional Studies, because I do like that. Those are the folks that work and go to school, and I want to give back to that.
Yeah.
I see myself writing my book. Hopefully, within that time, it'll be published or being published.
I just heard 3 or 4 book titles talking to you, so.
And getting my coaching business up. I'm in a coaching program right now. So getting that up and running. Teaching, that's one of my desires to do, is teach in a university. I work in a university, but I'm not teaching. But that's definitely one of the things I do see myself doing in the next 5 to probably in the next year. But that too. And those are, having my own workshop where I'm speaking, inspiring young women across the United States and even internationally, how to own their awesomeness, how to go for what they want, and how to be their authentic self.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I can see you get the book done so you can start being the premier speaker at these conferences.
Exactly.
That's gonna change everything you do. And you have a message that needs to be heard by a lot of women.
Yeah.
You really do.
Yeah. And and I'm going through it. I'm going through the process so that, what I learn, I can definitely bring back. But, it's about going through the journey. And not only that, but as I mentioned before, I read a lot. And so, taking what I read and sharing that with others as well.
Yeah. Oh, man. Well, listen, this has been a great time spent, awesome time spent, well spent with you. I've enjoyed it. I do want to ask you one last thing, and that's for you to tell us, how has your affiliation with the Black Doctoral Network enhanced your career?
Oh, it has so much. I saw someone, I saw Black Doctoral Network on Facebook. Somebody had mentioned it, and I had just, finished everything. And I was like, they had one of those? Because I was like, this is fantastic. So I immediately went on and joined. It was no problem. I just went on and joined. And I think I listened to a lot of the podcasts, and I attended a couple of sessions you all had too. And it has been wonderful. It's great to know that there are others out there like you.
Yeah.
That's it. It's that community. And, I put it on my resume and my CV rather, and put it out there. And so, and I let there are a lot of people that I know that are not a part of this. And I was like, hey, you might want to join this great organization, but it has really enhanced my profession, because when people do see that and I share that I'm a part of it, it's like, oh, I didn't even know that was
right.
There was an organization like that. Yes, there is. So yeah, it has been great, wonderful. I'm looking forward to the conference I know that's coming up soon. And so I did attend the one last year. So I was excited about that. So it's great. I would be glad when I can come in person at some point.
Yeah, me too. Because it's something about the vibe and the energy when we all get together.
It is. It really is. And, I was on one of the sessions, and one of the young ladies, she was the moderator. And she said something that really relieved me. And she said, I know I'm a doctor, but I don't know everything. And I was like, oh my God, that feels so good.
Yes.
It's just real, because I think when people, you have a doctor, in front of your name, people think you should know everything. And no, that's not it. And that's one thing that I can say that, the Black Doctoral Network helped me to learn, was that, you know what, you don't have to know everything. That's why we have a community.
Exactly.
Share all of that. Yep.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, first of all, for just being a part of BDN. We love having people like you who contribute and really believe in the work that we do.
Absolutely.
And also, thank you for joining me today. It has truly been a pleasure. Dr. Reese-Queen, will you please tell the viewers and listeners where they can go to learn more about you and the work that you do?
They can go to www.chanisereesequeen.org.
And there you have it. Everything you need to know is going to be found right there. Well, thank you once again. Thank you guys for watching. Please be sure you stay connected to the Black Doctoral Network and connect with us on all of our social media channels. Thank you for joining us today for the Black Doctor Talk podcast. We hope you will join us again next time. But for now, be sure to like, share, subscribe, and please don't forget to tell a friend. Thank you guys. Bye-bye.